Here are 292 facts about the heroes in BTD6. Quincy can't damage DDTs at any level without support. Once he hits level 7, every third shot fires arrows that explode on the first bloons they hit, dealing damage in a small area, and they continue to ricochet afterwards. This improves to every second shot at level 17. Rapid Shot triples his attack speed for a short time, and at level 15 it quadruples it. The Storm of Arrows is actually one giant projectile that has a 5% chance to hit each bloon inside it every frame, and can re-hit bloons every 0.05 seconds. At level 18, Storm of Arrows deals plus 18 damage to ceramic bloons, though it doesn't do extra damage to Dread Bloons' ceramic armor shell. It also ups the hit rate to 7.5%, and at level 20 it gets a bunch of bonus damage and the hit rate increases to 10%. Quincy is the cheapest hero in the game. He has never been nerfed in the 8 years BTD6 has been out. Gwen can pop purples without support until she reaches level 16, and this goes for her abilities too. Starting at level 4, she gains the passive Heated Up attack. This triggers every 40 shots from her flamethrower and creates a burst of flames around her that deal damage and buffs nearby monkeys, giving them extra pierce and the ability to pop lead and frozen balloons. Starting at level 17, this also gives extra damage to balloons, especially leads. At level 6, her flames start dealing damage over time, though it's only 1 damage every 1.5 seconds for 2 ticks. This gets way better with time though. Starting at level 9, each level increases burn duration by 1 second and damage per tick by 1. So it has a 4-second duration and 2 damage at level 9, and reaches a 15-second duration and 13 damage per tick at level 20. Her Cocktail of Fire deals fire damage every 0.2 seconds to up to 20 bloons at a time, and lasts for 12 seconds. And at level 14, Cocktail inflicts a damage over time effect on blimps that deals 5 damage every second for 10 seconds. Firestorm sets the screen on fire, burning every bloon and giving every tower the Heated Up buff. Both the initial burst and damage over time deals more damage to blimps than normal balloons. At level 5, Gwen gives plus 10% attack speed and radius for the Ring of Fire, Signal Flare, and Dragon's Breath Wizard, and plus 20% at level 18. Striker Jones can pop up to 10 bloons at once at level 1 and push them backwards 5 units. This pushback never increases directly, but it does get better as he gains more pierce and attack speed. Starting at level 5, he allows every explosion to have a 50% chance to ignore black bloon properties, increasing to 100% at level 19. At level 8, towers near him get plus 5% range and plus 25% pierce. Target Focus reduces the spread of mortar monkey shots by 30% and follows the location of your mouse or finger for a short duration. Artillery Command resets all ability cooldowns of bomb shooters and mortar monkeys, including passives like the Bomb Blitzes or Paragon's Life Loss Bomb Storm. And at level 20, it also grants double damage and pierce to bomb shooters and mortar monkeys for a short time. At level 1, Striker attacks every 1.2 seconds, and at level 20 he gets this down to 0.3 seconds, 4 times faster than at the start. At level 4, all bomb shooters and mortar monkeys have 10% reduced attack cooldowns, and at level 18, this gets improved to 19%, which is about a 23% increase in attack speed. Concussive Shell can stun up to 36 bloons for 1 second with a duration penalty versus blimps. The damage, pierce, duration, and blast radius all get buffed with levels. It can damage any bloon type, including black bloons, but it can't target or hit camos without some sort of camo detection. And it comes off cooldown fast enough to stun all 3 waves of ceramics on round 63. Obyn's main attack is a Spirit Wolf that seeks out bloons, dealing 2 damage with 4 pierce, making him super strong in the early game. Obyn's Totem slows bloons by 30% at level 4, 40% at level 8, and 60% for levels 15 and up, and this slows blimps with half effect. If bloons are in Obyn's range, he targets brambles based on his targeting. Otherwise, the brambles are placed in a random spot inside his range. These brambles act like a large pile of spikes and greatly benefit from Berserker Brew and AMD, as the extra damage gets applied to the entire bramble. Wall of Trees captures bloons in a very similar way to Bloon Trap. However, blimps can't be trapped if their RBE is higher than the Wall of Trees capacity. They can hold 2500 RBE and explode into bananas upon reaching this limit. This will be twice the amount of cash you'd get from popping them normally. In Chimps, you just get the normal amount of cash from popping them, similar to collecting a Bloon Trap in this mode. Obyn gives camo detection to nearby druids at level 8, even though he can't see camos himself. He also gives a ton of random buffs to druids and other magic monkeys, with the lesser known ones being plus 20% projectile size for tornado attacks, 5% shorter cooldowns for magic monkeys, and plus 50% income for nearby jungles bounties. Dan DeMonkey attacks with his sword every 0.5 seconds, dealing 1 damage to up to 4 balloons. He unlocks the transformation ability at level 3. When used, all his other attacks and abilities are disabled, and he produces lightning every 0.5 seconds that can hit up to 31 balloons. The transformation lasts 3 seconds, and when it ends, he switches from Dan DeMonkey to the Masked Macaque, or vice versa, and gains a buff that increases his attack speed by 33% for 9 seconds. The lightning can only target and hit camo balloons if used by the masked macaque or if Dan DeMonkey has camo detection. Dan has the same footprint as Captain Churchill and Pat Fusty at 8 units, but is reduced to 7 when transformed into the masked macaque. This hero is immune to negative effects in both forms. At levels 3 and up, Dan's main attack inflicts a blowback every 4 attacks that sends small balloons backwards 100 to 200 units, with a weaker effect on Moabs and BFBs. This attack affects a slightly larger area compared to its regular attack. Mask's level 7 ability lets him move around the map, and when he lands, it creates an explosion that deals 75 damage and stuns the surviving balloons. Its cooldown is reduced by 3 seconds every time a life is lost, including shield and soul barrier lives, with a minimum of 1 second between each life loss. Starting at level 8, every 24 attacks, Dan will taunt the balloons instead of slashing them. This attack has a 60 unit radius and can affect up to 45 balloons. This makes balloons take +1 damage per hit from all sources for 20 seconds, reduces their leak damage by 50% permanently, and has a 75% chance to blow them backwards along the track. ZOMGs, DDTs, and BADs are immune to all effects of this attack. The mask's main attack spawns chain lightning on every 3rd attack that can hit up to 15 balloons. Mask performs a stomp every 10 attacks. This can hit up to 30 balloons, making them take 20 damage and have a 50% chance to get blown back at 4 times speed. It cannot blow back blimps though. Dan places nets on the track every 9 seconds. When 4 balloons are close to it, it activates, slowing up to 12 balloons by 50%. This effect can slow Moabs, but camo balloons are unaffected unless Dan DeMonkey has camo detection. Both forms place an ethereal shield at the exit of each lane. When a balloon leaks, the shield activates and reduces the leak damage by 50%. It also creates an area of effect that pushes balloons back to hit the shield and stuns them for 3 seconds. This effect will only work once on each balloon, and the shield has 30 pierce. The shield will recharge after a 12-second cooldown, which restores the damage protection and refreshes its pierce. On top of this, level 12 gives both forms the quick thinking passive that activates when a balloon is about to leak. For the next 6 seconds, all leak damage is reduced by half, and a second area of effect is activated at the end of the track, which produces a stronger blowback effect that can affect up to 40 balloons. Starting at level 14, Dan DeMonkey will start recovering 1 life per second after a leak, up to the damage of the last leaked balloon, capped at 100 lives. Mask's level 14 gives him a new attack that specifically targets blue Moabs. This sends one backwards along the track, dealing 40 damage to it, and as it travels, the target and any balloon it collides with will take 60 damage every 0.1 seconds, and it gets pushed backwards too. This will keep damaging the target Moab and other balloons until 20 have been hit or 1 second has passed. The attack can keep hitting the same balloon after 0.1 seconds, which makes the target consume 1 pierce instantly. And this attack has a 30-second cooldown. At level 15, both Dan DeMonkey and the masked macaque apply a buff to all the towers on the map that increases their minimum and maximum blowback distance by 40%. At level 19, Dan DeMonkey generates 1 mana shield per pop, maxing out at 100 extra mana shield lives. His sword attacks gain 1% damage per mana shield, and this even works in chimps. For masked macaque's level 19, his sword and lightning attacks gain 1% damage per life under 102 lives, up to plus 101% damage. At level 20, both forms can attack up to twice as fast depending on how far the balloons are along the track, in the same way as the elite defender. Both forms also gain plus 1 damage for every set amount of leak damage on the screen. Dan stacks for every 20,000 leak damage and is capped at a maximum of plus 15 damage, while the masked macaque stacks for every 10,000 leak damage and can go up to plus 50 damage. Dan's level 10 ability is Rabble Rouser. It provides buffs to himself and any other monkey in his radius. It activates any life loss abilities, provides 1.5 times damage, and gives immunity to stun effects for 10 seconds, but their attack speed is reduced by 17%. The damage buff is multiplicative with other damage buffs and even affects abilities like First Strike. Mask's level 10 is Berserk Frenzy that lets him continuously charge up balloons anywhere on the map. He swipes every quarter second, dealing 30 damage. This lasts up to 12 seconds or until no balloons are on screen, and its cooldown is reduced by 5 seconds every time a life is lost. Also, if you're enjoying this video, consider using creator code Hbomb in the shop. It helps me out a lot. Benjamin makes $90 around at level 1 and $140 for levels 2 through 7, paying himself off in 10 rounds or less in most cases. At level 4, Ben gains cybersecurity, which heals lives after each round, and at level 14, he can generate up to 100 extra lives above the starting amount. His bank hack makes monkey banks, IMF loans, and monkeynomics generate more money per round, but keeps the interest rates the same. For some reason, I always thought it was the other way around. Benjamin gains camo detection at level 18. Ben's Trojan attack has infinite range, but can't see through obstacles and cannot be blocked by other balloons in path of its target. This applies an effect to Bloons, which causes them to spawn no children when popped. This usually loses you money, but as the game goes on and Ben gains levels, it can turn a profit. Trojan won't target anything weaker than a pink balloon or any of the Frontier Legends exclusives. Biohack affects the 4 closest monkeys to Benjamin, but ignores banana farms, villages outside of the primary expertise, Obyn's totems, and powers. Pat Fusty can be placed on both land and water. He slams Bloons into the ground every 1.1 seconds that deals 3 damage. This slam also creates a shockwave that deals 2 damage to nearby Bloons, including the Bloon that got slammed, so the main target takes 5 damage. He alternates between using his left and right fists, but it's purely visual. His slams have a limit on how far they can reach. With enough range buffs, his slams won't be able to hit the Bloons, even though he can see them. Starting at level 5, Pat does a backhand slap instead of a slam every 5th attack. It deals no damage, but knocks back Bloons and Moabs, causing them to move backwards at 3 times their normal speed for 1 second. It also generates an AoE that has exactly the same properties as the Slam Shockwave. Rallying Roar applies a buff that grants +1 damage to all towers in Pat Fusty's range, including himself, for 8 seconds. Pat's level 10 ability, Big Squeeze, makes him stop attacking and grab the strongest blimp in range, hold it in place for 3.8 seconds, then deal 9,999,999 damage to its outer layer and release it or its children stunned for 2.2 seconds. This means if a blimp has more than 10 million health, he won't one-shot the outer layer. While being crushed, the target balloon is untargetable by all towers, immune to all damage, and is unable to collide with any projectiles. And while he can't use his main attack for 5 seconds after starting Big Squeeze, he can still activate Rallying Roar. At level 20, he grabs the 4 strongest Bloons inside his range instead of 1, and Pat Fusty will create an area of effect that stuns Bloons for 5 seconds immediately after activating the ability. Pat is very effective at stunning crowds of Bloons in the mid to late game, especially by buffing him with a Berserker Brew or Overclock. This can either be used in a stalling strategy for a permaspike, or combined with a tower that does extra damage to stun Bloons like the T-Rex. Captain Churchill's main gun fires a shell every 1.5 seconds that pierces through Bloons and generates an explosion with each collision. Though, the shells can't make explosions for 0.05 seconds after each hit to stop them from exploding all at once. These shells have infinite pierce, but they can only generate up to 3 explosions by default, and they expire after generating the maximum number of explosions. The shells themselves deal no damage, but the explosions deal 3 and have 12 pierce. At level 5, Churchill unlocks his machine gun that shoots at Bloons inside his range. It always targets first, regardless of his targeting, and it can only hit 1 Bloon at a time, even with pierce buffs. His armor-piercing shells ability temporarily allows the shells to explode 2 more times, increases the damage they deal to ceramics and blimps by +9, and changes the damage of both his shells and machine gun to normal. Moab Barrage targets up to 10 blimps anywhere on the map, prioritizing the strongest ones, then drops a shell on the target every half second for 8 seconds. And if their outer layer pops, all shells targeting it disappear. Each shell deals 200 normal type damage and can only hit its target, not any surrounding balloons. Ezili is the most damage over time based hero in the game, with Gwendolyn being a close second. She is the second cheapest hero in the game, being only 10 bucks more than Quincy. Her main attack has 3 properties to it. The initial curse that deals 2 damage to the balloon she hits. This applies a damage over time effect that deals 2 more damage to it after 2.5 seconds, and it creates a splash that deals 1 damage to nearby balloons. As she levels up, basically everything gets better. The splash also curses the balloons, the tick rate, duration, damage, pierce, radius all increase, and she removes the camo, fortified, and regrow properties from the balloons. At level 11, she increases the pierce of undead balloons by 50%, making her a great hero to pair with Necromancers and the Prince of Darkness. Her Heartstopper ability prevents balloons from regrowing and negates purple properties for the entire duration. Ezili's totem gives extra range, pierce, attack speed, and camo detection to every tower in its range at the cost of some lives, and wizards get extra pierce and attack speed from this totem compared to other towers. With enough cooldown reduction, 2 totems can be on the screen at the same time, though their buffs don't stack. Totems can't be targeted by any ability, and can't be given buffs like extra range from a village. Moab Hex targets a blimp and deals 4% of its max HP plus 1 damage every second for 25 seconds. If the blimp is destroyed during this time, it spawns no children and bounces Hex to the next Moab with the remaining duration, so you're guaranteed at least 1 blimp one-shot. Each jump takes 1 of the 25 seconds, so there's a limit to how many jumps Hex can make each use. At level 20, the Hex can target bads and deals 5% max HP plus 1 damage every second. This is one of the best abilities in the game and makes the late game much easier. Pairing her with towers that can pop outer layers quickly but struggle against the super ceramics inside combo great, as they let Hex jump to more blimps by popping them quickly. The Carpetus Spikes and Permaspike are two of my favorite towers to pair with Ezili, as Hex saves them a ton of pierce and they can basically insta-pop ZOMGs. It also lets you save up longer in the mid game for a tier 5 monkey, as you normally need one of those for rounds 85 or 87, but Hex destroys these rounds, letting you save up to around 90 in many cases. Because Ezili can one-shot bats at level 20, she is one of the best free play heroes in the game. Hex deals percentage damage, so the scaling blimps of the late game don't affect her as much as other monkeys. Selling Ezili does not get rid of the Hex effect, allowing you to have more than one Hex on screen at a time by selling and rebuying Ezili back to level 20 quickly. Hex can't target an already Hex blimp, and they'll only bounce if there currently is an Ezili on the map and she has used her own Moab Hex. There is a bug that when there are multiple Hexes on screen, Hex will target close instead of Ezili's targeting. Silas has the same footprint as the Dart Monkey, but can be placed on land or water. He attacks with ice orbs that seek out Bloons and have 3 stages. He can cover the Bloons in rime that slows Bloons and makes them take more damage from ice attacks, freeze Bloons that are already rimed, or generate icy blasts from Bloons that are both rimed and frozen. While this attack can affect whites, zebras, or purple Bloons, the rime explosion can damage purples. Starting at level 2, Silas provides a buff to ice monkeys in his range that causes them to produce 1 ice fragment each time they attack. They have 6 pierce, 1 damage, plus 1 damage to frozen Bloons, and can re-hit Bloons after 1 second. He has an Arctic Wind-like aura that slows Bloons and allows land towers to be placed on water within its radius. Unlike Arctic Wind though, this radius does not scale in size with range buffs. Silas's ice walls prioritize active lanes, inflict knockback, freeze 10 layers for 3 seconds, and can re-hit Bloons after 3 seconds. Each ice wall has 15 pierce, lasts 15 seconds, and can carry over 1 round, but they can't collide with whites, zebras, bads, or bosses, even if Silas is given a buff that allows him to damage those balloon types. At level 5, Silas gives a map-wide effect that gives a 50% chance to ignore the immunities of white and zebra balloons, and the immunity is completely removed, starting at level 13. At level 6, Silas can target balloons within range of any ice monkey on the map. Unlike advanced intel, he can target balloons not visible from his own line of sight when using an ice monkey's range. Starting at level 8, Silas gains 5% more XP every round for every tier 3 and above ice monkey on the map, capped at plus 50% XP. This level also increases the range of every ice monkey on the map by a flat plus 5 units. Frostbite makes Silas's main attack damage any balloon type, and if it hits a frozen balloon, it deals 10 extra damage per second of freeze time it has remaining. With good Frostbite timing, he can one-shot children of early Moabs. Frozen Cascade lets Silas emit a blast of ice, then up to 9 ice monkeys emit the same blast, each that damage the balloons. Silas is immune to freezing on Glacial Trail. Etienne uses drone sub-towers to attack the balloons for him. Unlike other flying sub-towers though, the drone can only target balloons inside Etienne's range. When balloons are inside his range, the drones will attempt to position themselves in front, similar to pursuit heli pilots. If there are no visible targets, the drones will just move around his range at random. Etienne unlocks new targeting settings when he unlocks his second and third drone, and he will automatically switch to them. Divide and Conquer splits the drones up between strong and first, while Zone Defense puts the drones in first, strong, last, and close respectively. The targetings are shown by the color of the drones. Blue means first, green is last, purple is close, and yellow is strong. But unfortunately, switching him back to first is usually the way to go. Starting at level 2, Etienne grants plus 10% range to all nearby towers, and this buff is increased to plus 20% at level 16. Etienne's UAV is actually a tiny invisible sub-tower directly below him. It provides global camo detection, functioning identically to a radar scanner, and can be disabled by phase. Drone Swarm spawns 4 additional drones that share the same behavior and stats as the permanent drones at Etienne's current level, but they have their own targeting settings that can't be changed. One is on first, one is on last, and 2 are on strong. These drones last longer as Etienne levels up, initially lasting 18.5 seconds at level 3, and increasing by 0.5 seconds every level, up to 27 seconds at level 20. His level 10 UCAV transforms the UAV into a combat drone that fires a volley of 10 homing missiles every 0.6 seconds for 12 seconds. These missiles have infinite range, ignore line of sight, have camo detection, and always target first. At level 20, the UCAV becomes permanent, but with the stats it had at level 13. Activating the ability now increases its explosion damage to 12 and gives it the normal damage type. Sauda's sword slashes are actually large stationary projectiles that are offset slightly in front of her. She has 4 attack animations that she uses at random, but they are purely visual. Surprisingly, her swords deal double base damage to ceramics and blimps. At level 11, Sauda does extra damage to bloons that are slowed or taking damage over time other than her own Bloon Bleed effect. Speaking of Bloon Bleed, it makes regular bloons take 1 damage per tick, while Moab class bloons take an additional 19 damage per tick. At level 17, the damage increases to 10 for all bloons, plus 40 to blimps, and the duration increases to 6 seconds. Sauda's extra damage to stunned, slowed, and dotted bloons extends to her abilities as well. Sword Charge makes her sweep backwards along the track with 1 copy of Sauda for every entry to exit combination, making her very strong on maps with overlapping tracks. Before level 7, Rosalia can only move onto land or her own landing pad, though she can still move between locations without restriction. Rosalia will not attack while changing locations. After reaching level 7, her jetpack improves and she can move to any location, including the track itself, with an effective footprint of 0. Also at this level, Rosalia no longer needs to perform her liftoff animation while repositioning, saving about 0.4 seconds. At level 4, Rosalia gets a passive called Adrenaline Rush. This makes her attack speed increase by 1% for every 2 bloons in her range, not her workshops, up to plus 25%. This limit increases to 40% at level 11 and plus 60% at level 17. Every 10 shots, Rosalia fires an enhanced shot. The enhanced layer deals extra damage, inflicts knockback, and applies a laser damage over time effect, while the enhanced grenade fires 3 grenades instead of 1. Starting at level 6, Rosalia provides a 10% discount to monkey aces and helipilots within range of her workshop. This does not apply to Paragon upgrades though. And at level 20, Rosalia provides a 30% discount to the anti-bloon if the super monkey is in range of her workshop. Her scatter missile ability causes her workshop to lock onto a target and launch missiles at it every quarter second for 5 seconds, so a total of 20 missiles. The missiles are randomly spread out around the target within a 35 unit radius and stun any non-blimps for 1 second. Flight Boost causes Rosalia to pursue bloons automatically while using both weapons at the same time, and buffs the flight speed of herself, monkey aces, and helipilots within range by 30%. During this time, both of Rosalia's attacks count towards her enhanced shots, but if grenades are her currently selected weapon, each shot counts towards enhanced grenades twice. Kinetic Charge creates a bomb that latches onto a blimp. It detonates after 10 seconds, or if that blimp takes 6,000 damage from other sources, whatever comes first. It generates an explosion that has 500 pierce and deals a base of 1500 damage, plus the amount of damage the blimp it was attached to took during that time, capping out at a max of 6,000 damage. If the target's outer layer pops before it explodes, it moves to the first child bloon, and any damage dealt to the parent layer carries over. The kinetic charge will wait at the workshop until a Moab class bloon is on screen, and then attach to it. It expires without exploding if 60 seconds goes by after deploying, even if it latches onto a bloon, and it can carry over 1 round. Adora's Divine Bolts will decelerate if the target bloon is not within a 30-degree cone of their current trajectory, and will accelerate if it's within a 5-degree cone, allowing them to make much tighter turns than other projectiles. If Adora is level 20 and has a Sun Temple in her range, and it's upgraded to a True Sun God, Adora transforms into True Adora. In this form, Adora's main attack deals plus 24 damage and has plus 30 pierce, and Ball of Light gains plus 180 damage and 35 pierce. She remains transformed even if the True Sun God is sold. Long Arm of Light temporarily buffs Adora's Divine Bolts, doubling its pierce and range, increasing its projectile radius by 50%, and allowing it to damage every type of balloon for 10 seconds. Adora's level 7 ability, Blood Sacrifice, destroys the selected tower and provides a buff that increases range and attack speed based on the total amount of cash spent on the sacrifice tower. This also grants Adora XP equal to 4 times the cash amount, which is affected by Energizer. Adora cannot sacrifice sub-towers. This buff applies to Adora, Sun Avatar's temples, and True Sun Gods within her range. It increases range and reduces attack cooldown by 10%, plus 1% for every $100 spent on the sacrifice tower, capped at plus 25% range and minus 25% cooldown at $1,500 spent. At level 20, the duration increases to 60 seconds, and the cap increases to plus 50% range and double attack speed at $4,000 sacrificed. Granting the buff to towers that already have it does not stack the effects, but stronger versions of the buff will override weaker ones, and activating a weaker version while a stronger version is active will cause the weaker version to take over once the stronger version ends. Her Ball of Light ability spawns a temporary sub-tower that orbits Adora for 12 seconds. The ball fires lasers at Bloons with infinite range and matches Adora's current targeting priority. Overclock does not affect it, but Acidic Mixture Dip and Berserker Brew do. Brickell is the only water-only hero in BTD6. Her pistol doesn't work like a traditional gun. The bullet itself doesn't deal damage. Instead, when the shot collides with a Bloon, it creates an area of effect that can hit up to 3 Bloons. The only thing is that this area has a radius of 0, so the Bloons have to be touching the center point of the shot for them to take damage. Admiral Brickell's Sea Mine attack passively deploys mines on the water within a range every 3 seconds. The placement of the mines is random, but they are always deployed within 39 units of the track if possible. They can only be deployed on top of other towers when there isn't enough space, and they can't be deployed on top of Brickell herself. Once deployed, a mine can last up to 120 seconds, can carry over 1 round, and it disappears if Brickell is sold. Mines home in on Bloons if they come within 40 units of it. On contact, it deals 1 normal type damage to the target Bloon and generates an explosion that deals 1 explosion type damage to up to 20 Bloons, including the initial target. It also explodes in place if it starts seeking a Bloon but doesn't hit it after 0.3 seconds, but it will not explode if it expires on its own. If a mine activates, other mines cannot activate for 0.4 seconds afterwards. This is not affected by attack speed buffs. Blast Chain makes sea mines have a 0.1 second delay between activations instead of 0.4, and their movement speed while seeking Bloons is doubled. Starting at level 15, her sea mines can pop black Bloons and strip camo properties. Starting at level 8, Admiral Brickell grants +1 Pierce to all water towers placed in her range except herself. Naval Tactics is great at all stages of the game, especially helping with DDTs later on. By the end, it provides extra attack speed, pierce, camo detection, and the normal damage type. Mega Mines last up to 150 seconds or 4 rounds, whatever comes first. On contact, they generate an explosion that deals 4,000 normal type damage to up to 100 Bloons in a large radius. Blimps consume +1 pierce, it does not soak through layers, and it stuns any Bloons that did not have any layers popped by the explosion for 5 seconds. It also explodes in place if it starts seeking a Bloon but does not hit the target after 0.2 seconds. Despite being placed like a tower and displaying a ranged circle, the mine is not treated like a sub-tower. It has no footprint and is unaffected by buffs of other monkeys. It's better to have Mega Mines explode when many Moabs are nearby to use more of their pierce, and they should be spaced out to avoid wasting multiple mines on one use. Round 99 can be stalled to place several mines to help out with the round 100 bad. Sai's basic attack inflicts psionic vibrations on the Bloons, freezing them in place, then destroys the entire Bloon after a short delay that depends on the strength of its target. This attack has a cooldown of 1 second, but it doesn't start until after the psionic vibrations have destroyed the balloon. This is similar to a damage over time in that they apply damage according to a tick rate, but instead of dealing damage on every tick, the effect counts the damage that would have dealt, then instantly destroys the balloon once it would have taken enough damage to be fully popped. By default, this deals 1 damage every 0.2 seconds, but this increases with levels. This has a cap of how long it can take, maxing out at 15 seconds if it's a huge balloon, or 3 seconds if it's the final balloon of a round to prevent stalling. Sai can't get Acidic Mixture Dip, and they cannot target bads, boss Bloons, or golden Bloons at all. At level 8, psionic vibrations create a small explosion called Destructive Resonance after popping a balloon. It deals 1 damage, has 10 pierce, and can hit any Bloon type except purples. Level 9 gives Sai a second main attack, but it doesn't follow Sai's targeting. It's similar to a sniper's elite option in that it targets strong until a Bloon reaches the 50% mark, then it switches over to first. At level 17, Sai gains a third copy of this attack that always targets first but prioritizes Moabs and ceramics. Psychic Blast stuns 1 layer of up to 200 Bloons within 60 units of Sai. This stun lasts for 6 seconds for normal Bloons and 1.5 seconds for blimps. You can use a Monkey Buccaneer to roughly figure out how large Sai's stun is and where you want to place them. Psionic Scream targets up to 2,000 Bloons, prioritizing those closest to Sai. Each Bloon targeted has a 50% chance of being afflicted with psionic vibrations and a 50% chance of getting blown backwards along the track. It only targets Bloons that Sai's main attack can hit, and at level 20, Psionic Scream always inflicts psionic vibrations. Geraldo's main attack can pop frozen Bloons, but not leads or purples. His lightning has 1 unbuffable pierce and deals 1 damage, but creates an explosion that damages nearby Bloons. He is the only hero without any activated abilities. Geraldo unlocks new items from levels 2 through 12 and at level 20, while his existing items improve from levels 12 to 19. His stock fully restocks to level 20, but this can only happen once per game. Each item has an inventory that limits the number he can hold, which restocks one use every few rounds. The number of rounds depends on the item, with nails and totems taking 1 round to restock, while worn hero capes take 7 and camo pots take 10. This restock round counter pauses when an inventory is full, only starting back up when you buy one. Shooty turrets have a strong early game, shooting every 1.5 seconds with 2 damage and 10 pierce. Putting them on straightaways maximizes their pierce and makes them worth the price, and they have such a small footprint you can place them where other towers don't fit. At level 13, Geraldo stocks upgraded turrets that shoot faster and deal more damage, making them surprisingly good at locking down an exit in the late game. The stack of nails is basically a pile of spikes you can place anywhere on the track. Levels 1 through 12, they deal 1 damage and have 10 pierce, 13 through 15, the damage jumps up to 6, and levels 16 and up, they turn into nail mines. These mines get the normal damage type, extra damage to ceramics and fortified balloons, have 24 pierce, and explode when running out of spikes. The creepy idol knocks back every 4th balloon that comes inside its range. At level 12, creepy idols start stunning every 4th blimp. Moabs for 3 seconds, BFBs for 2 seconds, and DDTs and ZOMGs for 1 second. At level 18, they apply Unstable Concoction to blimps upon expiring. This is activated when the creepy idol is sold or expires after a round ends. You can sell these creepy idols even in chimps mode. The Jar of Pickles can be given to towers to increase their damage by 1 but decreases their attack speed by 33% for 5 rounds. This can't be applied to banana farms or monkey villages other than the primary expertise. It can be given to glue gunners though, even without damaging upgrades, and it doesn't increase their glue's damage, so it's pretty bad on them. This flat damage bonus at the cost of attack speed is most effective on low damage towers. Any tower with 1 or 2 damage is overall buffed by the Jar of Pickles, those with 3 damage are about neutral, and any tower with 4 or more is effectively nerfed. This works very well with Super Monkeys, Overdrives, and Jerry's Fires. Geraldo's action figure doesn't attack, but passively increases in value every round, letting you sell it for much more than you bought it for. Rounds 1 through 30 increases its value by 10% each, 31 through 80 increase it by 5%, and rounds 81 and up increase it by 2%. Both the cost and sell value have a maximum of $10 million. Neither will increase further after reaching this point. The Sea Invisibility Potion lets a monkey see camo balloons for 5 rounds. Super useful in the 30s, as you can make your best monkey see the camos from rounds 33 through 37. At level 14, this lasts 10 rounds and gives the monkey plus 20% range. And at level 19, it gives plus 1 camo damage to towers, which can help out a ton with DDTs in the 90s. The tube of Amazo glue can be placed on the track to glue balloons that pass over it. The glue lasts 4 rounds, has 100 pierce, and slows affected balloons by 50% for 30 seconds. This glue soaks through all non-blimp layers. At level 17, it's upgraded to also affect blimps, slowing them by 37.5%. This upgraded glue uses 5 pierce to affect Moabs, 10 pierce for BFBs and DDTs, and 25 pierce for ZOMGs. This upgraded glue also slows non-Moab class balloons by 55% instead of 50%. The Sharpening Stone increases the pierce of a monkey's sharp attacks by plus 1 for 10 rounds, and at level 15, the buff is upgraded to increase the pierce by 2. If a tower with the Sharpening Stone buff is upgraded to lose the ability to deal sharp type damage or is transformed by total transformation, it loses the buff. The Worn Hero's Cape transforms a selected dart monkey with tier 2 upgrades or below into a 000 super monkey. Super monkeys obtained this way can only be upgraded to tier 3s and below. This item is not usable in game modes where the super monkey is disabled, like primary only. If the current challenge rules have a limit on the number of towers a player can use, it cannot be used if the player is at the limit. The blade trap can be placed on the track and triggers if a balloon touches it. It fires 2 blades 30 times per second that each deal 1 damage and have 200 pierce. Blade traps last forever if not triggered and cannot be buffed except for camo detection. At level 15, the blade trap is upgraded to shoot in 4 directions instead of 2, and these upgraded blades deal 2 normal type damage and have 500 pierce. The bottle of Jerry's Fire Hot Sauce effectively adds a Dragon's Breath attack to a tower for 5 rounds. It can see through walls and always targets first no matter the targeting of the base tower. At level 16, the buff's duration is upgraded from 5 rounds to 10, and the burn damage over time is upgraded from 1 to 3. It receives the buffs of the targeted tower, so putting them on Shinobi buff ninjas or pop lusted druids make for very strong synergies. The Fire Spirit is a huge help in 2 Megapops challenges, as the pops go to the target tower and not Geraldo. Fertilizer makes banana farms produce 20% more cash for 4 rounds, including boosting the end of round cash from the Monkey Wall Street, though the buff expiration occurs before the end of round cash, and it doesn't increase any of the banana farm's abilities, nor the interest of the monkey banks. The pet rabbit may be placed in Geraldo's range, and when 1 to 3 of them are purchased, they do nothing except walk around the map aimlessly. However, once 4 pet rabbits have been purchased, they merge together into a killer rabbit, which is a sub-tower of Geraldo capable of damaging Bloons all over the map. The killer rabbit deals normal type damage and is able to see camo balloons. It has infinite range, can see through walls, and attacks by continuously charging itself into the balloons. It has an attack cooldown of 0.4 seconds, 15 pierce, and a base damage of 10 with plus 30 to ceramics and blimps. Additionally, it gains damage the more balloons are on screen, capping out at plus 40. The Rejuve potion can't increase your number of lives above the starting amount. The genie's attack follows Geraldo's targeting with a range of 100 units and an attack cooldown of 0.2 seconds. At level 18, the genie gains an additional attack, identical to the first, except that it always targets close. Each Paragon totem sacrificed provides 2,000 Paragon power, so sacrificing 100 totems guarantees a degree 100 Paragon. Corvus inflicts the strongest Bloon within his range with a haunt every 3 seconds. It does no damage by itself, but it strips the regrow and purple properties and causes the target to take extra damage from energy, plasma, fire, and frigid damage. Haunted Bloons explode when destroyed, damaging other Bloons and generating mana. Corvus restores 2 mana per layer the Haunted Bloon had when it was first afflicted. Additionally, he passively generates 2 mana per second as long as the Bloons are still spawning. His spirit does not benefit from external buffs like Berserker Brew, Overclock, or even Jungle Drums and Call to Arms. Starting at level 8, Corvus generates more mana the lower he is, capping out at 3x if he has 80 mana or less. This also affects Soul Harvest and Dark Ritual. Speaking of which, Soul Harvest releases a blast around Corvus that damages up to 20 Bloons and restores 100 mana plus 1 point per damage it does. It can only be used up to 8 times per round and is disabled if a round lasts more than 3 minutes. Dark Ritual creates an aura around Corvus that deals 1 damage every 0.2 seconds to up to 100 Bloons, and this restores 1 mana per point of damage dealt by the aura. Starting at level 12, activating this ability also removes 10% of the points from the graveyards of wizard monkeys and converts these points into mana. Spiritual Attunement is unlocked at level 11. It increases the damage and movement speed of the spirit depending on how much mana Corvus has in his mana pool, capping out at 20% faster movement speed and 150% more damage at max mana. This spear spell makes the spirit throw homing spears that trigger lightning bolts. Spears themselves don't deal damage, but have 5 pierce. Every hit produces a lightning that can fork up to 4 times, hitting up to 15 Bloons, and dealing 1 damage. Lightning has a cooldown of 0.3 seconds while the spear touches Bloons. For levels 12 to 17, lightning deals 4 damage and the spear has 10 pierce, and levels 18 and up further increase the lightning damage to 10. Repel as a knockback attack to his spirit for a short time. The knockback attack can't deal any damage and knocks up to 10 Bloons back 8 units. Starting at level 12, Repel can affect Moabs, knocking them back by 4 units. Echo creates a second copy of the spirit for a short time, and the copy is locked on first regardless of Corvus's targeting priority. Haste increases the movement and turn speed of the spirit, which helps out against faster Bloons like pinks and yellows, but it also affects the speed of trample, letting the spell end faster and letting the spirit get back to attacking. Ancestral Might transforms the spirit into a giant red hand, smashing down on the strongest Bloon within Corvus's range. It slaps every 1 second with 50 damage and has 14 pierce. Its damage is increased to 150 for levels 13 through 19 and to 270 damage at level 20. Overload makes the spirit cause a large explosion that deals tons of damage and soaks through Moab layers. Pairing this with Echo is a great way to clear tons of blimps in the late 90s. When first unlocked, Nourishment has a 1:2 ratio of mana to XP, which is affected by Energizer. Between levels 15 and 19, this increases to 1:4, and at level 20, Nourishment converts mana to in-game cash at a 1:1 ratio. Nourishment cannot have its cooldown modified by recovery, and level 20 Nourishment is disabled in Chimps, Deflation, and in Frontier Legends. Soul Barrier initially has a limit of 400 shield lives per usage. This increases to 800 between levels 9 and 16, and level 17 increases this limit to 2,000, though Corvus is still limited to 800 at a time. But that was 292 facts about the heroes in BTD6. If you want to see 277 about the other monkeys, click this video right here.